السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وبعد. So inshallah, we'll continue inshallah with our program, Basics of Knowledge on the subject of fiqh. And we are in the fourth and the final book inshallah, which is قبلة المولي في تعليم المصلي, the goal of the one who directs to teaching the one who prays, by Sheikh Salih bin Abdullah al-Hussein حفظه. Instructor would be Al-Akh Abdullah ibn Hussein. So as we know that the Sheikh, we mentioned before in the previous class, that the Sheikh Hafidhullah in this book, he did not mention the adillah for every specific mas'ala, for every specific issue. So it is void of adillah. It is just mentioning the mere description of the salah. The Shaykh Hafidhullah did not went into details in relation to the wajibat and the arkan and the things that nullifies the salah, sujood al-sahu. These are all things that the Shaykh Hafidhullah did not put into the book. The Shaykh Hafidhullah in the book, he stuck with what is considered the description of the salah, sifatul salah, the description of the salah, from the beginning of it to the end of it. So the Shaykh Hafidhullah, and it is upon the correct opinion according to the Hanbali madhab. So the Shaykh Hafidhullah, he says, وصفة الصلاة أن يقول قائما مفرقا قدميه. Right, so the first hala here, when he mentions, he starts by saying the description of the salah is that one says while standing with feet apart, Allahu Akbar. وصفة الصلاة أن يقول قائما مفرقا قدميه الله أكبر. Then he went on to say, which is the next thing after that, رافعا يديه حذو منكبيه. While saying Allahu Akbar, raising his hands to the level of his shoulders, with fingers together, مضمومة الأصابع, ممدودة, they're spread out, they're together in relation, they're not separated, they're together, right? And really, that is, the fingers are not separated from one another, they're not spaced out, they're together, and they're outstretched, extended. Okay? حذو منكبيه مضمومة الأصابع ممدودة مستقبلا ببطونهما القبلة. With the inner part of both his hands facing the qibla, وينهي رفعه مع التكبير ويحطهما بلا ذكر. Then he ends, right, it's raising with the takbir. So when he says the Allahu Akbar, he raises his hands while saying Allahu Akbar. while saying Allahu Akbar. And he finishes it with the takbir, right? And when he put his hands down, that is, putting his hands on, tying his hands, before he tied his hands, or when he put his hands down, he doesn't say any specific remembrance at that time. وَيَحُطُّهُمَا بِلَا ذِكْرٍ, right? So there is no specific dhikr when putting the hands downwards. Whilst raising the hands, he says Allahu Akbar. Whilst putting the hands downwards, there is no dhikr at that time. طيب. When he says Allahu Akbar, the Shaykh went on to explain more, right? So when he's saying Allahu Akbar, who has to hear the statement Allahu Akbar, right? So he says, وَيُسْمِعُ الْإِمَامُ مَنْ خَلْفَهُ وَيُسْمِعُ غَيْرُهُ نَفْسَهُ. The Imam says it, the takbir aloud, so that those behind him can hear, whilst other than him say it, so that he can hear himself. Now, other than the Imam would be the Ma'moom and the Munfarid. The Ma'moom, which is the person who the Imam is leading, and the Munfarid, the person who is praying by himself. So the person who is praying by himself and the person who is being led by the Imam, they say it so that they can hear it themselves. So they don't say it so that the person next to them can hear it. Now, the main part in this, for example, in relation to the Imam, when he makes those behind him hear, it has to be that he intends to make them hear. So while saying the takbir, he intends to make them hear by raising his voice. Sometimes maybe someone that is far away from him may not hear, right? But he is doing what is upon him because he intended to make them hear. And likewise, sometimes someone, like for example, he is praying by himself or he's praying behind the Imam, and he's saying it so that he's saying the takbir so that he can hear himself. He can hear himself. But sometimes the one that is next to him may hear because his hearing is very sharp, right? So that is not considered, that is okay. When he's saying the takbir, he's not intending by saying the takbir, or he's not trying by saying the takbir to make others hear. He's trying to not make others hear and to just make himself hear what he's saying. Okay? Then he went on to say, ثم يقبض كوع يسراه بيمينه ويجعلهما تحت سرته وينظر إلى موضع سجوده. Then he grasps his wrists on the side where the thumb is. Now the wrist, the ku', right, is the side of the wrist that is joined with the thumb bone. Okay? So that is what you call the ku'. So here the mu'allif, the author is saying, ثم يقبض كوع يسراه بيمينه. Then he grabs the wrists on the side where the thumb is, right? But which wrist? Now, this has to be added in the translation, inshallah. So it is the left wrist. So he grasps the left wrist with his right hand. So that has to be added, inshallah, in the translation, inshallah. That's a mistake, inshallah. So ثم يقبض كوع يسراه بيمينه ويجعلهما تحت سرته, and he places them under his navel, looking towards the place of prostration. ينظر إلى موضع سجوده, looking towards the place of prostration. So again, we go back. Then he grasped the wrist. Which one of the wrists? He grasped the wrist of his left hand, right? On the side that is closer to the ibham, which is the thumb, with his right hand. So the hand that is grasping is the right hand, and the hand that is being grasped is the left hand. And he puts it under his navel, and he looks to the place of the sujood. In relation to putting the hand under the navel or above the navel, the scholars differ in relation to this. There's another opinion of some of the scholars that you put the hand above the navel, right, under the navel or above the navel. There are no authentic hadith to specify where to put the hand. So all of the hadith concerning where to put the hands are not considered authentic. So some of the scholars, like the Hanbali madhab and the Hanafi madhab, they put it under the navel, right? Madhab al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, right? They put it above the navel. The hadith in Bukhari alludes to putting the hand above the navel, because the grasping is not the wrist that is being grasped at the hadith that is in Bukhari, but rather the forearm is being grasped, right? So if the forearm is being grasped, right, and this is the dalil of Imam al-Shafi'i, if the forearm is being grasped, then it is very difficult for it to be under the navel. And the other power, which is that it is under the navel, and there are some ahadith that are weak that establishes this position, that is putting the hand under the navel. As we said before, there are no authentic narrations of where to put the hand exactly. And this is why Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, when he mentioned this mas'ala in his book, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, he said what means that in relation to putting the hands, the Salaf, the predecessors from the Tabi'een and even the Sahaba, if we look into their statements, we would find that in relation to putting the hand above or below the navel, that some of them put it above, some of them put it below, and they're not very strict in relation to should it be above or should it be below. So what the Sahabas and the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een and the scholars in the time of Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, where he says that the amal is upon this, right, that the people are with putting the hands below the navel and above the navel. This is what the people used to do in his time and before his time. The amr is open. You put it above, you put it below. Inshallah, there is no problem, inshallah. So then after that, ثم يستفتح سرا فيقول سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك. And then he recites dua al-istiftah, silently saying سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك. Right? And also we need to note that inshallah here we are not going into detail in relation to the proofs and the adillah. Like for example, if someone is just learning how to pray, he's not going to correct everyone's salah, right? That is not the aim, to go and correct everyone's salah. You correct your own salah. You're learning how to pray based on on what is correct, inshallah. But that correct thing is based on the ijtihad of someone, because you're a layperson, right? So it is based on the conclusion of a scholar. It's based on the conclusion of a scholar. So we need to bear in mind that there are differences of opinion in many of the masail, many of the issues pertaining to salah and pertaining to wudu, etc. Right? So we need to bear that in mind, inshallah. ثم يستفتح سرا فيقول, then he recites dua al-istiftah silently, saying سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك. How perfect you are, O Allah, and praise is for you. Blessed is your name, and exalted is your majesty, and there is nothing which deserves to be worshipped besides you. Right? So that is the dua al-istiftah. Now the dua al-istiftah is to be said before starting the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. So for example, if someone joins the salah in the ruku' position, he doesn't say dua al-istiftah. Likewise, if he joins the salah in the tashahhud position, he doesn't say the dua al-istiftah. And likewise in the sujood position, right? And the list goes on. So when you say the dua al-istiftah, you join the salah. If you started with the imam, you say the dua al-istiftah. Okay, because after that you're going to read, right? You're going to read from the Quran. You're going to read Surah Al-Fatiha, right? So before you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, you say the dua al-istiftah. Now, if, like for example, you're in the ruku' or after the ruku', right, or any other position, then and you join the salah, you don't have to say dua al-istiftah. Okay. Rather, you should not say dua al-istiftah. Dua al-istiftah, the place for it is if the imam is standing and you joined him while he's standing, or if you started with the imam from the beginning of the salah, then you say the dua al-istiftah. Okay, because it's that which opens up for you to recite the Quran. Okay. Then after that he says al-isti'adha wal-basmalah. ثم يستعيذ ثم يبسمل. Okay? ثم يستعيذ, that is saying al-isti'adha. And al-isti'adha is أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, seeking refuge in Allah from the shaitan, right? And from the forms that are well known is the statement أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. That is a well-known format of al-isti'adha. And the next one is ثم يبسمل, which is mentioning the name of Allah. And we mentioned before that يبسمل or al-basmalah, it is mentioned to mean two things. Bismillah, right? And in this case, what is meant is not Bismillah, but Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay? So in this case, when we say ثُمَّ يُبَسْمِلَ سِرًّا فِيهِمَا ثُمَّ يُبَسْمِلَ, which is saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay? Saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sometimes the same word, yubasmil, comes in the books of the scholars of fiqh, and they mean to say Bismillah faqat, like what preceded us in the wudu, right? Thumma yubasmil. Yubasmil in that sense means to say Bismillah, right? And in the books of the Hanabila, as we mentioned the last time, the basmala, when it is mentioned, yubasmil, when it is mentioned, it is meant to say Bismillah except for the salah. What is meant here is to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now the dua al-istiftah, which is the opening dua, right? And the isti'adha and the basmala, they're all to be said silently. Then after that, he recites Al-Fatiha. ثم يقرأ الفاتحة مرتبة متوالية مرتلة فإن قطعها بذكر أو سكوت غير مشروعين وطال أو ترك منها تشديدة أو حرفا أو ترتيبا لزم الإمام المنفرد إعادتها. Okay, so now he's going to talk about the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha and how should it be done. Now, in relation to the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha and how it should be done, as we know that the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, for the one who is able to recite it, then he has to recite it. It is considered a rukn of the Salah. It is considered a rukn of the Salah. Okay. So he recites, how do he recite Surah Al-Fatiha? He recites Surah Al-Fatiha murattaba, mutawaliya. Right? He recites it clearly in its correct order. That is, in accordance with what is in the script of the Mus'haf. What is in the script of the Mus'haf. Right? So we find that Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen is before Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. That is how it is written in the Mus'haf, okay, in the Quran, in the written form of the Quran, okay. So we have to read it like how it is written, in the order that it is written in the Mus'haf. So we cannot read the fourth ayah and then the first one, or the first one and then the second one, okay. Even if it makes sense in the order that we read it, but if it disagrees with what is in the Mus'haf in relation to its order, then that recitation would not be considered valid. Okay, ثم يقرأ الفاتحة مرتبة. Right, then he recites Al-Fatiha clearly in its correct order, one verse followed by the other, right? And even the tertib of each letter, the first letter and the second and then the third and then the fourth, based on what agrees with the Mus'haf, that the rasm of the Mus'haf, the script of the Mus'haf. متوالية مرتلة فإن قطعها بذكر أو سكوت غير مشروعين وطال, right? أو ترك منها تشديدا أو حرف أو ترتيبا لازم الإمام والمنفرد إعادتها. Okay, so if he interrupts with a supplication or a silence that is not legislated or lengthy, right, or omits from it a shadda, which is known, shadda, right, which is a sukoon, and then the harf is repeated twice, right, with a sukoon on it and a vowel sign, with a sukoon on it and on the first one and a vowel sign on the second one, right? An example for that in Surah Al-Fatiha is Iyaka. So Iyaka, I, that is the sukoon, Ya, that is the fatha after it, and then the alif, the elongated alif. Okay, so that is an example of the shadda. So you cannot omit the shadda, you cannot omit a letter, right? All of these things you have to recite it as it is in the Quran. Okay? أو سكوت فإن قطعهما بذكر أو سكوت غير مشروعين. So if he interrupts it with a supplication that is not prescribed, right, and it is lengthy, or a sukut that is not prescribed, like he stops reciting Surah Al-Fatiha for a while, right? He stops reciting Surah Al-Fatiha maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? And then he starts again. Now, that type of sukut is not legislated in the Salah. That type of sukut is not legislated in the Salah at that point, of the Salah, right? That is in the middle of the surah, in the middle of Surah Al-Fatiha. There is no prescribed time in the middle of Surah Al-Fatiha where you stay silent for a lengthy piece of time, right? There's nothing like that. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ used to space out between each ayah, so he would read Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and then he would stop. But it wouldn't be like for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes long, okay? So if it is long, if it's a long pause or a long stop, or you start making dhikr and dua at that time, for example, and it becomes lengthy, then that would make him have to reread Surah Al-Fatiha. Lazim al-Imam, and who have to reread it? In that sense, he would start back from the beginning of Surah Al-Fatiha, right? If he has done any of this, he will start back from the beginning of Surah Al-Fatiha, right? That is the Imam and the Munfarid. Okay? Then we have a note here, which is وَلَيْسَتِ الْإِسْتِعَاذَ وَالْبَسْمَلَ مِنَ الْفَاتِحَةِ, and the isti'adha and the basmala is not considered from the Fatiha. فَإِذَا فَرَغَ مِنَ الْفَاتِحَةِ قَالَ آمين, and when he finishes from the recitation of Fatiha, he says Ameen. بَعْدَ سَتَّةٍ لَطِيفَةٍ, right? After he paused for a moment, right? So he paused for a moment, then he says Ameen, okay? He says Ameen. يجهر بها في الجهرية إمام ومأموم معا وكذا منفرد, and he says it with a loud voice. So he says it, him, that is the Imam, and the one who is led, right? And the one who prays by himself, right? All of them say it aloud. Okay. The Imam and the Ma'mum, which is the Imam, the one who is leading the Salah, and the Ma'mum, the one who is being led, try to say it together, right? When the Imam says it, the Ma'mum try to say it with the Imam. Okay? Then after that, ثم يقرأ بعدها سورة تكون في الصبح من طوال المفصل وفي المغرب من قصاره وفي الباقي من أوساطه. Okay. Then after that, he recites a surah. Okay? A surah. تكون في الصبح من طوال المفصل. Right? It is recommended that it in the Fajr Salah, in the Salah, the morning prayer, that it be from the Tiwalul Mufassal. Tiwalul Mufassal, the lengthy Mufassal surahs. Now the lengthy Mufassal surahs, as it's here in the translation, it's from Surah Al-Qaf to Surah An-Naba, right? So it includes Surah Al-Qaf and it excludes Surah An-Naba, right? So the last of the Mufassal surahs would be Surah Al-Mursalat, okay? That is the lengthy Mufassal surahs. Then we have the short Mufassal surahs. The short Mufassal surahs, which is Al-Qisar al-Mufassal, right? That is read in the Maghrib Salah. So the Maghrib Salah, what is preferred to be read in the Maghrib Salah is from Al-Duha to Nas. What is preferred to be read in the Maghrib Salah is from Al-Duha to Nas. Now, note that this is not obligatory, that is to read from Al-Tiwal al-Mufassal or from Al-Qisar al-Mufassal or from Awsat al-Mufassal, right? This is not something that is obligatory. This is something that is recommended. So it is recommended to read from the Tiwal al-Mufassal and the Fajr and the Qisar al-Mufassal in the Maghrib, and the rest of the Salah, we will read from the one that is the intermediate Mufassal, which is from Surah An-Naba to Surah Al-Duha. Then he went on to say, he says, وَيُسَنُّ جَهْرُ إِمَامٍ بِقِرَاءَةِ صُبْحٍ وَجُمْعَةٍ. وعيد وكسوف واستسقاء وأولي مغرب وعشاء ويكره لمأموم ويخير منفرد وقائم لقضاء ما فاته. Okay, so we have some issues pertaining to the reciting aloud, or loudly in the salah. So we have وَيُسَنُّ, it is sunnah. So a point to note that it is sunnah to recite aloud in these following cases, right? So if the person is an imam, if he's the imam of the salah, then he recites aloud in the Salatul Subh, which is the morning prayer, in the Jum'ah prayer, in the Eid prayer, in the eclipse prayer, in the Istisqa prayer. The Istisqa, Salatul Istisqa, is the prayer which is done to seek rain, right? That is Salatul Istisqa, which is the prayer which is done to seek rain. So if there is a drought, for example, then it is permissible, or it is legislated in the Sharia that the Imam orders that they pray Salatul Istisqa, which is Salat for rain, right? Praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him to send down rain. Right. Then he went on to say, أَوَّلَيْ مَغْرِبٍ وَعِشَاء, and the first two rak'ats in Maghrib and Isha. Okay? So that is, in relation to the Imam, in these positions, he recites vocally. In relation to the one who is led in this salah, and he is a ma'mum, then it is disliked for the follower of the Imam to recite aloud. So if you're behind the Imam, you don't recite aloud in this salah, right? In relation to the one who's praying by himself, then he has a choice. He reads aloud or he reads silently. And likewise, the one who is making up for what he missed from the salah, reading aloud in these instances or reading silently in these instances. That is, if it is from the Subh Salah, right, or the Jum'ah Salah, right, for the person who misses one rak'ah, or for the person who misses one rak'ah for Jum'ah. Because if he misses two rak'ah for Jum'ah, then he prays it Dhuhran, then he prays it as Salatul Dhuhr, okay? So if he comes in at the Tashahud for Jum'ah Salah, then he prays Salatul Dhuhr, right, and he makes it, and he prays it silently. Okay? So in relation to, like, for example, the morning prayer, the person who misses one rak'ah for Jum'ah Salah, or misses a rak'ah for Eid Salah, a rak'ah for Kusuf Salah, for example, or two rak'ah for Kusuf or Eid, right, one or two, right, he recites it, or Istisqa, he recites it aloud. If he misses one of the two of the first rak'at, for example, he misses two rak'at for Maghrib, then he prays one aloud and one silent. Isha, if he misses three, he prays one aloud and two silent, and like that. So he has a choice in relation to that. That is in relation to the person who is completing his salah. Then after that, the Shaykh went on to mention another position in the salah. So he says, ثم يركع مكبرا رافعا يديه مع ابتدائه كرفعه الأول. Then he bows, that is making ruku' while saying Allahu Akbar, raising his hands at the beginning of the takbir like the first raising, كرفعه الأول, okay? And then he places his two hands on his two knees. طيب ويضعهما على ركبتيه مفرجتي الأصابع ويمد ظهره مستويا ويجعل رأسه حياله ويجافي مرفقيه عن جنبيه ويقول سبحان ربي العظيم ثلاثا وهو أدنى الكمال. Then he bows while saying Allahu Akbar, raising his hands at the beginning of the takbir, like the first raising. He places his two hands on his two knees with fingers wide open, extending his back, right? يَمُدُّ ظَهْرَهُ, right? So that it would be parallel to the ground, right? And it would be straight. Making it straight, right? وَيَجْعَلْ رَأْسَهُ, whilst having his head in line with his back, right? So his head doesn't drop downwards or go upwards. He makes it in line with his back, okay? Moving his elbows away from his sides and saying, how perfect is Allah, which is Subhana Rabbiyal Azim Thalatha, which is the lowest level of perfection. Right? It is the lowest level of perfection. That is the mustahab. The lowest level or mustahab is 3 times, right? And then we have, and what is wajib from that is once. So you have to say it once, right? You have to say it once, then, and it is mustahab to say it 3, and you could say it 5 or 7 to 9 times, inshallah. Right, that is what is mustahab in relation to the regular salah. ثم يرفع رأسه ويديه كرفعه الأول قائلا إمام ومنفرد سمع الله لمن حمده وبعد قيامهما ربنا ولك الحمد ملء السماء وملء الأرض وملء ما شئت من شيء بعد ويقول مأموم في رفعه ربنا ولك الحمد فقط وإن شاء وضع يمينه على شماله أو أرسلهما. Then he raises his head and hands like the first raising, the Imam and the one who is praying by himself, saying, Allah heard the one who praises him. After they both stand up, they say, O our Lord, to you is the praise as much as fills the heavens and the earth, and as much as fills the earth, and as much as you fill after that. يعني whatever you feel after that. Okay? So that is ربنا ولك الحمد ملء السماء وملء الأرض وملء ما شئت من شيء بعد ويقول مأموم في رفعه ربنا ولك الحمد. And then he says that the ma'mum, the one who is being led in salah, says, Our Lord, to you is the praise only. And if he wishes, he put his right hand on his left hand, or he leaves it at his sides. Right? So in relation to the Imam, they're in the madhab, they're differentiating between the Imam. So the Imam, he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida. And then after, when he is upright, he says, Rabbana wa lakal hamd mil as-sama'i wa mil al-ard wa mil ma shi'ta min shay'in ba'd. As for the ma'mum, whilst he is getting up, he says, Rabbana wa lakal hamd alone. Right? And then he says, and then if he wills, he put his hand on his right hand on his left hand, or he leave them to the side. Okay? But he raises the hands whilst getting up, right? When he put it down back, either he put it at the side or he placed the right hand on the left hand. Okay. So in relation to the ma'mum, in the Hanbali fiqh, they differentiate between the ma'mum and the imam. So the ma'mum, whilst getting up, he says, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, right? Only. And there is another qawl in this mas'ala. The ma'mum is just like the imam. So the ma'mum says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and he also says, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and he could even say, Mil as-sama'i wa mil al-ard wa mil ma shi'ta min shay'in ba'd. And there is no difference, inshallah. ثم يخير مكبرا ساجدا على 7 أعضاء فيضع رجليه ثم ركبتيه ثم يديه ثم جبهته مع أنفه. Then he falls down in prostration while saying Allahu Akbar, prostrating on 7 limbs, placing his 2 feet, then his knees, then his hands, then his forehead, with his nose on the ground. Right? So ثم يخر مكبرا ساجدا. Right? So this is the order in which he makes the sujood, and he makes it on 7 limbs as in the hadith in Sahih Bukhari. على سبعة أعضاء. طيب. The order that he goes is he put his feet first, well, his feet is first, then after that his knees, then his hands, and then his forehead with his nose. Okay. ويجافي عضديه عن جنبيه وبطنه عن فخذيه وهما عن ساقيه ويفرق ركبتيه ورجليه ويمكن جبهته وأنفه وراحته من الأرض مباشرا لها بأطراف أصابع رجليه مفرقة موجهة إلى القبلة ويقول سبحان ربي الأعلى ثلاثا وهو أدنى الكمال. Okay, so in relation to we would see now in relation to the sajda, there is something that is common in the sajda. The sajda, it is, as we could say a general ruling in relation to the sajda. The sajda is you space out yourself in the sajda. That is the asl. You space out yourself in the sajda. Okay? You space out yourself in the sajda. So we see that he separates his arms from his sides. Right? That is, if he doesn't harm anybody, he's praying by himself, he's the imam. Or if he doesn't harm anyone that is next to him, he spaces his arms out from his sides, his abdomen from his thighs, and from his two thighs. So his two thighs and his two legs apart, right? Spaces out. So they're not together. And he also separates his two knees and legs, right? He places his forehead, nose, and palms on the ground, making the tips of his toes facing the direction of the Kaaba. Okay? The tips of the toes facing the direction of the Kaaba. And he says again here, Subhan Rabbi al-A'la thrice, which is the lowest perfect level, or the lowest level of perfection, right? And the wajib from it is once. Then after that, he raises up his head مكبرا ويجلس مفترشا يسراه ناصبا يمناه ويوجهها إلى القبلة. Then he raises his head while saying Allahu Akbar and sits with his left foot laid flat on the ground while his right foot is upright and his toes face the direction of the Kaaba, and he spreads his hands on his thighs with the fingers close together, saying what means Rabbi Firli. He says this thrice again, and that is the lowest level of perfection. Then he prostrates like the first prostration. Okay? There are other adhkar that could be mentioned here, and again we would note Rabbi Firli, the wajib for the wajib, or what is obligatory, is saying it once. Okay? That is what is obligatory. Then ثم يرفع مكبرا ناهضا على صدور قدميه معتمدا على ركبتيه بيديه فإن شق فبالأرض ويصلي الركعة الثانية كالأولى إلا في تجديد النية وتكبيرة الإحرام والاستفتاح والتعوذ إن تعوذ في الأول. Okay, then he goes on to say, then he raises to a standing position while making takbir, getting up on the front part of his feet, relying on his knees with his hands, and if it is difficult. So this is how you get up, right? Getting up on the front part of the feet, right? Relying on his knees with his hands. And if it is difficult, then he would rely with his hands on the ground, right? And this is what the Prophet ﷺ did in the latter part of his life, right? It was narrated that he relied on it with his hands on the ground, right? So then, and he prays the second rak'ah. ويصلي الركعة الثانية كالأولى, like the first rak'ah, except for the niyyah and the takbiratul ihram, right? So the niyyah is at the beginning of the salah. So you don't have to make an intention again, right? As we know that the niyyah is not said. The niyyah is in the heart, okay? Then after that, you don't have to say takbiratul ihram. Takbiratul ihram is at the beginning of the salah, okay? Also, what is different from you don't say al-istiftah. So when you get up for the second rak'ah, you don't have to say al-istiftah, which is the opening supplication. Okay? And you don't have to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem again. Right? If you had said it before. If you didn't say it before, like you were a masbook, right? Then you say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ثم يجلس مفترشا ويضع يده على فخذيه. Right? So after finishing the second rak'ah, like how you did the first rak'ah, right? Then you sit muftarishan. Right? What is al-iftirash? There's a type of sitting which is sitting with the left foot laid flat on the ground, while the right foot is upright. Okay, that is muftarish. That is jalsatul iftirash, right? ويضع يديه على فخذيه يقبض خنصره اليمنى وبنصرها. Okay, putting his hands on his thighs, folding in the little finger and the ring finger. That is the one that is after the little finger. And then making a circle with which finger? With the thumb and the middle finger. Okay, with the thumb and the middle finger. طيب. Okay. ويشير بسبابتها من غير تحريك في تشهده عند ذكر الله. Right, and then he points with the index finger without shaking it, okay, in his tashahhud, when he says the tashahhud and when he remembers Allah and when he makes dua, right? So when he makes dua, when he remembers Allah, when he does the tashahhud, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, he's pointing in these moments with the index finger and not shaking it, right? And as for the left hand, then his left hand is put on his left thigh. ويبسط أصابع يسراه مضمومة مستقبلا بها القبلة ويقول سرا. Right? He spreads out the fingers of his left hand while joining it together, pointing in the direction of the Kaaba, and he says silently. Okay, and then he says after that silently. Remember, this is the tashahhud, the first tashahhud. He says silently, التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Right? Inshallah, everybody knows that, inshallah. That is the first tashahhud. That is the first tashahhud. Okay? Then after that, if the salah is rak'atayn, what he does, he says after that, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Okay, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. This is one format of the salat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are other formats also, but the Sheikh only mentioned one format, which is mashhur in the Hanbali fiqh. Okay, so this is one format of as-salat ala nabi alayhi salatu wassalam in the tashahhud. Now this is, if the salah is of 2 rakat, then this would be like the last tashahhud, right? If the salah is of 2 rakat, then this would be like the last tashahhud. Okay. Now, in relation to the tashahhud al-awwal, the Shaykh mentions that you don't have to, you say only at-tahiyyat. Okay. And there is another opinion on this issue, that you say at-tahiyyat and as-salat ala nabi alayhi salatu wassalam. That you say at-tahiyyat and as-salat ala nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, which is the salah al-Ibrahimiyya, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Now, if the tashahhud is the last tashahhud, then you add the salat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as is mentioned here, And then you also, it is sunnah, that is wajib, right? And it is sunnah أن يتعوذ فيقول أعوذ بالله من عذاب جهنم ومن عذاب القبر ومن فتنة المحيا والممات ومن فتنة المسيح الدجال, right? That you seek refuge in Allah from these four things, right? That is in the last tashahhud. So if the salah is of 2 rak'at, then you add the dua أعوذ بالله من عذاب جهنم ومن عذاب القبر ومن فتنة المحيا والممات ومن فتنة المسيح الدجال. Okay? Then you also could make any dua after that. That is, if it is the last rak'ah. If it is the last rak'ah. Okay? Then after that, right, so if the salah is of 2 rak'at, then you give the salam on the right, right, and you give the salam on the left. So you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah an yasarihi kadhalik murattaban mu'arrafan wujuban. Okay. So what is wajib from the salam is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, right? That it be done twice. Turning to the right and the left is considered an act of a sunnah act. Turning to the right and the left is considered a sunnah act. Okay? That the salam be in this format, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, that it be Assalamu and not Salamun alaikum. Right? You have to say it like that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, with the alif and lam in front. Okay? That is what is mentioned, that is, it must be in a definite matter, Assalamu alaikum. Right? Wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That it be in the same order. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay? It is to be said on the right and on the left. Then if the salah is 4 or 3 rak'at, if the salah is 4 or 3 rak'at, right, he stands up after the first tashahhud like he stood up from sujood. Okay, so if it is the 3rd and the 4th rak'ah, right, he stands up after the first tashahhud like he stood up from sujood by saying the takbir, Allahu Akbar. Right? Now here, the qawl that is mentioned here is that he does not raise his hands. Okay? And there is another qawl that you will raise your hand whilst getting up from the tashahhud, the first tashahhud. Okay? So there are difference of opinion. And it is 2 riwayah in the madhab, 2 different narrations in the madhab. The one that is more prevalent is this one, which is that you don't raise your hand. Right? In this point. The other narration, which is that you raise your hand at this point. Okay? And that is in Sahih Bukhari from Hadith Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. Okay? Then what else? Then he prays the remaining of the salah, right? And he prays it silently, the 3rd and the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th rak'ah. وَلَا يَزِيدُ عَلَى الْفَاتِحَةِ. He does not increase on recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. ثُمَّ يَجْلِسُ مُتَوَرِّكًا فِي تَشَهُدِهِ الْأَخِيرِ. Okay. Then he sits in a mutawarrik position for the final tashahhud by spreading his left foot and making his right foot upright, letting both of his feet out on the right side, placing his buttocks on the ground, right? Then he makes the tashahhud and the salam on the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So he makes the tashahhud, which is the last tashahhud, which was mentioned before. Right? Which is the last tashahhud, which was mentioned before. That is, he says the tashahhud, he says the salat on the Prophet ﷺ. He makes the dua, which is sunnah, from the 4 things, seek refuge in Allah from Adhab al-Qabr wa Adhab al-Nar, from the punishment of the Qabr, the grave, the punishment of the hellfire, from the fitna of life and death, and from the fitna of the Dajjal. Okay? And then he says whatever dua he wants to say. That is in the last tashahhud. Now, tawarruk is the type of sitting, right? He says, by spreading his left foot and making his right foot upright, right? Letting both of his feet out on the right side, right? So he's sitting on his buttocks on the ground, flat on the ground, and he pushes his left foot out on the right side, right? And automatically his right foot would be a little bit out on the right side also. Okay? He has his right foot standing upwards, right? As you see here, making his right foot upright. His right foot, that is the bottom of the foot. The bottom of the foot upright so that the toes could be pointing to the Qibla, so that the toes could be pointing to the Qibla. So inshallah, I hope that is out. Then he says that in relation to the woman, then the woman, her salah is just like the man. Except that in relation to the sujood and stuff, she don't be that, she closes herself in relation to the sujood and in relation to the other aspects where a man is more, he spreads himself out, the woman closing herself a little bit, okay? That comes under the general ruling in relation to women and them being more, being more protective of their aura, okay? So we find that, for example, the woman, also in the Hajj, the woman does not run between Safa and Marwa, right? From the same point of view, inshallah, right? So he mentioned two types of sitting for the woman, which is sitting with her feet on the right side, or sitting with cross-legged. The cross-legged sitting is that, inshallah, the next one is better. The next one is better. In the madhab, they also permit that the woman sit in a cross-legged position also, right? But as we said, the better thing is that she sits with her feet out on the right side, okay? So inshallah, we would end here, inshallah, in relation to this book. Alhamdulillah, we finished the fourth book. Alhamdulillah. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.